Real Estate Schools present The Creation of a Successful Real Estate Salesman, written and produced by John Lumbleau. Class number 1, Your Successful Residential Sales Methods. Hello, I'm John Lumbleau, and I'm going to be your instructor during this entire series of videotapes called The Creation of a Successful Residential Real Estate Salesman. Feel pretty good right now, don't you? You've passed your examination, and let me congratulate you. That's quite a hurdle. But it has nothing to do with selling real estate. Now that you've taken all the Lumbleau classes, and you've studied all the Lumbleau material, and you've taken all the Lumbleau exams, and you've gone down and you've accomplished goal number 1, gotten your license, I can now tell you to forget about 60% of the things you've learned at the school. These are things necessary to pass an examination. And you've accomplished that. But now we're into the work of it. Now we're into your career. That's what this course is all about. It's called The Creation of a Successful Residential Real Estate Salesman. That's what you're going to become, a successful residential real estate salesman. That is, if we have anything to do about it. Because Lumbleau schools are total service. We're here to take you from the ground, and we did right through your examination, past that. But on this point, we're going to go right on into your career. And we're going to follow your career with you all the way through to your eventual success. That's what Lumbleau training is all about. This course, well, before we begin it, the first tape is to let you know who I am, what I do, and why you should listen to the words that I speak. You see, I started my career in real estate at the age of 18, but I'm not going to talk about the first 3 years of my career because they were just summer work, holding open houses, make $1,000, a couple $1,000 a summer going through college and getting a bachelor's degree at Loyola University. Now, when I graduated Loyola, that's when my career began. I was 21 years old, and 1951. You know, back in those days, there wasn't any sales training. There was no great books out on sales training. There was no people out doing what I'm doing for you right now, teaching people how to sell, how to succeed in real estate. The only way that you really could succeed was to find somebody that knew how to sell real estate. And if you could possibly go to work with that person, you could follow them around like a puppy dog and watch them list and watch them close and watch them qualify buyers. Everything in real estate. You could do this and then try to absorb into yourself those things that would be successful for you. That's what I did. But before I did it, I gave my father a promise. I'm going to ask each of you, before this course is over, to make this promise. It helped me twice. I wouldn't be here in front of this camera today on videotape for you without that promise. You see, you're going to have some highs and lows in real estate. This is a selling career. There's ups and there's downs. And there's going to be some times you're going to want to get out of real estate. My father told me this. He's a very wise man, a great salesman. And he said, son, the only thing I'm going to ask you to do is to make me a solemn promise. You will promise not that you won't leave real estate. Hey, I'm not going to ask you to do that. No one can ask another person never to leave a profession. That's impossible. No, he says, you're going to get some highs, you're going to get some lows, and there's going to be some times you're going to want to get out of real estate. So you just raise your right hand and you make the following promise. And this is what I said. I hereby promise that I, if I desire, will leave the profession of real estate at any time I want to within 24 hours after I've made a sale. Yeah, now you know what's going to happen, don't you? You'll never leave the profession of real estate. Well, thank God for that promise. There was twice in my career that I wanted to leave. I was down. It was 6 weeks. I hadn't made a sale. I hadn't gotten a listing. I was into it 10 and 12 hours a day. I was in there 7 days a week. I was doing the things that are necessary, but there are times that these things just don't mesh. And I looked for that sale to get out. But you know as well as I do what happened immediately after I made it. One of them was a $40,000 sale, and I was in for a couple $1,000s commission. And one was a $150,000 sale, and I was in for a lot of commission, and just nobody's going to leave under those conditions. It's going to happen to you. Sure it is. You don't have to make that promise to me. Hey, there's only one person in this world that's important to you, and the only person that you'll ever have to make a solemn promise to, and that's yourself. So at some night, during this course, when you're taking my series of tapes and you understand what it takes to become successful, and you make that promise to yourself, and you'll be in the profession of real estate forever, because the things that you'll learn in the series of tapes that you're going to see here at the Lumbleau schools are all of the things necessary for you to achieve success. Let me explain why this material is so important and how it came about. I became successful in 1951 because I went to a city here in California to a broker that was making $125,000 a year under the advice of my father. He said, find somebody making that kind of money that's doing those kind of sales. I watched this man make 37 sales in 37 days. I watched him do things that I've never seen another person do in my entire lifetime. He was a unique individual, and therefore I had the ability for 4 or 5 months to follow him around like a puppy dog. I didn't learn much. I didn't learn much because he was a unique personality, and I could not become that person. I learned that you cannot become another person. You cannot do what another person does. There's only one thing in this world that you can do. You can become a better you. You can develop you and your personality. I learned some things, but I learned this man had confidence. Oh, did he have confidence. He had read every book there was in real estate. He took every course there was in real estate. He knew more in that city than any other realtor or broker in the field of real estate. And he knew it. And he radiated this knowledge and this confidence out to other people, and they became so entirely confident in him that they actually would turn over their worldly possessions to his control. You might call him an honest con man. He was a confidence man, but honest, because he would take people's worldly possessions and he would wisely invest them for these people. He knew real estate, and that's what happened to me. I said, I've got to know as much as this man knows, and then I can become as great as he, because he was just an average person. There's no mystique to it or mystery to it. He was an average individual. So I went to USC in 1951 at night because I worked during the day, and 3-4 nights a week I was there at USC taking every course there was anyway related to the field of real estate. And I learned. And over at USC I'm kind of proud of the fact that I formed a fraternity called Rho Epsilon, and that's grown all these many years to some 17 universities. It's the only fraternity recognized by the National Association of Realtors. And I was a founding father at USC at those days at night school. And after I'd taken every course there up to a master's degree in real estate, I went to UCLA and I took every course they had in real estate in any way related to real estate until I had everything they had, and I got a certificate in real estate. And I grew in my profession the hard way. I learned by beating my head against that brick wall out there and making failure after failure after failure and learning by failure. In those days, the survival rate of this profession was something like 3% of the people that entered it, because there was no training. You had to do it yourself. You had to learn by trial and error. I did. I eventually, in 1954, went into commercial and investment properties, and I became successful there. In 1961, 62, right around the early 60s, I was in the horns of a dilemma because my father, God love him, had passed away. My mother was running the Lumbleau real estate schools. I was assisting her as best I could with my sales on the outside, and here were the schools, and here was my clients and my successful selling career, and I didn't know which way to turn. Something happened in my life at that time, which is the reason I'm here before you. There was an advertisement in a newspaper that there would be a course offered in Los Angeles for $700, 3 nights a week, 3 hours a night for 1 month. And that's a heavy, heavy price to pay in the early 60s. But you pay that kind of money when the person teaching the course is called Napoleon Hill. You may not have heard of the name Napoleon Hill, But you may have heard of the book that he wrote in the 1920s called Think and Grow Rich. That is the fundamental success book of all success books. Every person that's ever written a book on success has taken the substance of the material of Napoleon Hill's book and enlarged upon it and written their own book or taught their own course. But he's the father. He's the base of all that success writing. You see, this man was hired by Andrew Carnegie back in the 1900s, early 1900s, to do a job. Andrew Carnegie said, look, I don't want to leave behind me just a simple fact that I made hundreds of millions of dollars. No, that's unimportant. I'd like to leave into this world a monument to the fact that I existed. And so he hired Napoleon Hill and he sent him out on a research project. He made the appointments for Napoleon Hill because this man didn't know all the big people in the United States. He asked him to meet with and talk to for hours on end the greatest entrepreneurs, the greatest businessmen, the greatest leaders of industry and in politics in the United States. And over a 25-year period of time, Napoleon Hill researched the 500 greatest entrepreneurs in this nation. He talked to them for hours on end, and he was searching for just one thing. What were the common denominators of these people? For Andrew Carnegie had said, set forth the common denominators. Find those stepping stones. Find those guidelines so that we can provide a method for other people to achieve this stature in life. The end result was this course. Interesting fact. I arrived, I'd paid my $700 by mail, and when I got there were only 2 other people present. That's right, 2 other people. Now, this man had all the rights in the world to cancel that course because he had a room set up for 40, 50 people. But the greatness of the man showed through. He said, look, if 3 of you were willing to pay the money, I'm willing to stay here in Los Angeles for a month and teach you. If you'll allow me to cancel this meeting room, we'll meet in my hotel room, and for 1 month, 3 nights a week, 3 hours a night, I sat at the feet of the master. And I learned much. I learned that I had to change the direction of my personal career because I had 2 choices, to sell or to create a big company, the Lumbleau real estate schools, the largest schools of its nature in the entire nation. And I made my choice. We had 1 school teaching, 100 students a month at that time, and I made my choice to go to the Lumbleau real estate schools and create them. But I made another big choice based on Napoleon Hill's background. This man had taken 25 years of a lifetime to do just one thing, to research the common denominators of greatness. Now, only 3 people showed up. Why? Because it's simple. The goal was too high. I mean, how many people in Los Angeles have a goal of becoming the president of U.S. Steel? Not very many. You have to relate to what the subject matter of the course is, just as you are relating to the subject matter of this course, and we can relate back and forth to one another, because what I did when I had finished that course under Napoleon Hill in the early 60s, I simply made a decision for myself. I was going to research the common denominators of great residential real estate salesmen. And I took a dollar sum out of the top of my hat. I said, anybody that makes $25,000 a year or more can be considered to be a good salesman, a great salesman, because today that would mean around $50,000 a year. And I was in a perfect position as Lumbleau schools, because as the owner of Lumbleau schools, when students would come through for their salesman's license, they'd come through and get it. But remember, you have to be a salesman for 2 years before you can become a broker. And when salesmen came back through for a broker's license, I'd met every one that came to the Los Angeles branch, and I'd tap them on the shoulder and say, how'd you do last year? And one would say, oh, I did all right. I made $12,000, $15,000. And I'd pat him on the shoulder and say, that's fine. You go on up to class. The next one would come through, and I'd say, how'd you do last year? And he'd say, well, I did all right. I made about $70,000. And I'd say, come on in my office. And we'd sit down and we'd talk. And I'd say, how did you find your buyers? And how did you find your sellers? And how did you list your property? And how did you qualify and show and close? What did you do to make $70,000 a year selling residential property? And I took copious notes, and I took tape recordings, and 6 years later, 3,000 interviews later, I, like Napoleon Hill, found the common denominators of successful residential real estate salesmen that sell over $1 million worth of residential property per year. Yes, I found those common denominators. And I built a textbook called The Creation of a Successful Residential Real Estate Salesman. That textbook's been revised many times. It's available for you here at the Lumbleau School, the latest edition. And I put this course on for 4 years. I traveled the length and breadth of this country putting this course on. It became nationally famous, and eventually it's gone to video. There are over 600 offices in the United States that have paid over $4,000 apiece just to have what you're going to see in these tapes for their salesmen in their office. Because this is the basic selling course in residential real estate throughout the United States. It is considered to be the prime selling course, the one course that will create real estate salesmen. And that's what you want, isn't it? You want to become successful. Well, this is just an introductory tape to let you know who I am and what I've done. The research is right up to date. This is the latest material you're getting because real estate does flux and change, and I've got to keep on top of things to find out what the latest thing is so I can always relate that to my students. For Lumbleau training is to produce not just a person who passes an exam, but Lumbleau training is destined to be that training which will create successful real estate salesmen, if you want it. Now, let me tell you before I tell you in general in this first tape what I found. Let me tell you what I didn't find. So let's get rid of all the hang-ups and all the crutches. I didn't find any common denominators in the age of people. I found them old. I found them young. I had one extreme example in my Santa Ana school in the late 60s of a lady that came to school, and she got a salesman's license and was so successful her first 2 years in real estate, she got a broker's license. Waited about a year after she got a broker's license and opened up a real estate company and had 23 salesmen. It's a standard success story, isn't it? Until you realize that young lady was 89 years old when she first attended school. And she was 91 when she got a broker's license, and she was 93 before she opened her office. 94, and she had 23 salesmen. So if you're 60 years old and you feel you can't start again, you go cry on her shoulder. I've got a lot of 60 and 70-year-old people that come to Lumbleau real estate schools and are successful in selling residential real estate. Lots in their 50s and 40s and their 30s, and hey, in this day and age, I've got a tremendous number of young people. I've got 18-year-olds out there that just like I started my 18th year, only now, where I had to learn it the hard way, I got 18-year-olds that go out with this course you're about to have and go to $1 million or more their very first year of real estate. No, there's no common denominator to age. I found them successful when they were female, and I found them successful when they were male, and I found them successful when they were black, and white, brown, and yellow, and Catholic, and Jew, and agnostic, and atheist, and Protestant, tall and short and fat. No common denominators, even intelligence factors. The average real estate salesman is a very average intelligence person, and the formal education is a lot with less than a high school education, many with a high school and quite a few with a college education. That hasn't got a thing to do with it. Whatever you've done in your past life, I don't care about. Really, I don't care about. This is stage one. This is day one in the rest of your life. This is the course in your brand new career if you will follow not what I say. Hey, look, it's going to be my voice, my diction. It's going to be my emphasis. But it is now my research has gone to 4,000 as of this date. It is actually 4,000 salesmen, all $1 million salesmen who are reaching their arms out to you and saying, this is our common denominators. These are the things that made us great. Anyone can do these things. Come join us. Come join us and do these things. You can't learn from one person. You can learn from the common denominators of many, because these are the things that everybody can do. You can't become another person. You can only become a better you. Let me tell you in general what I learned. I learned every time that I met a $1 million residential real estate salesman that I was talking to a person that knew what they were doing. Well, that's kind of simple, isn't it? I mean, you got to know what you're doing before you can become successful. But you got to understand more about that. See, knowing what you're doing is a composite of three things. Number one, to know what to do and to understand why you do it. Now, that's what I'm going to do for you. In this series of tapes, literally, you will learn the selling methods of greatness. They are the common methods to all great salesmen, therefore anybody can do them. You will learn them because you'll do three things to learn them. I will give you the knowledge. I will give you the understanding. Now, of course, you're only allowed to see this course once as a Lumbleau student. You can come back, but there's a charge for it to see it a second time. But we have my textbook, The Creation of a Successful Residential Real Estate Salesman. That repeats everything in the course. We have audio tapes that you can play in your car. And the tapes won't change. The tapes are going to be this course. What's going to happen after you hear these tapes 3 and 4 and 5 times is the tapes won't change. You'll change. You hear a thing 6 and 7 times, it starts to become a part of you. This is the knowledge and the understanding, but that is not the learning of it. To learn something, you've got to go into the field and you've got to apply knowledge and understanding. You've got to do the things of greatness over and over and over and over and over again until they start to become part of you, part of your personality, part of you, the successful real estate salesman. Yes. That's what it takes. It takes going out and having the guts to do it in the field and do it over and over again. Oh, you don't have to have the trauma that I went through of missing constantly, of failing constantly. You're going to go out with the background of 4,000 successful people behind you. You're going to go out with the synthetic experience of 4,000 people, the knowledge of 4,000 successful salesmen. But you're still going to have to do it. And if you're going to be successful, every time you make a presentation, you're going to make 3. Great salesmen are the most self-chastising people in the world. Let's say it's a listing presentation. There's going to be 3 tapes, an hour and a half in this course just to teach you how to get a listing at the right price and terms. And you're going to listen to it and see it and get the tapes and repeat it and read it in the book. And on your way to your first listing presentation, if you're going to be any good at all, you're going to not listen to the radio. You might listen to one of the tapes on the listing presentation, but basically mentally you're going to go through it and you say, this is what I'm going to do when I get there, and then I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to do that. You'll do a mental presentation. Then when you get there, that's your second presentation. That's the one that actually occurs. And it's not the same as the first one. Lumbleau didn't tell me to ask that question. It was the wrong question. I wasn't prepared for that. I forgot to do this. You'll be nervous. Maybe you'll get the listing, maybe you won't. That's of no consequence. Really, it isn't. Because we're talking about education and training. The third presentation you make is in your automobile driving away. And you go through the whole thing again and you chastise. You say, oh, I should have said this. I forgot to say that. Oh, I should have done this. In other words, the third presentation is the one you would do if you could do it all over again. Because you make that third presentation, the next time you go to get a listing, won't you do it better? Sure you do. We learn by doing, but you're going to learn by doing the things of greatness. You see, that's what it is to make a great real estate salesman. You give me an average salesman, I'll hand you back on a silver platter average selling habits. Give me a good salesman, I'll hand you back good selling habits. Give me a great salesman, and that's what you're going to be. You'll be using the great selling habits of great salesmen, which I will give you in this course. And you might say to yourself, well, if I got out in the field and I got all those great selling habits as my habits, I'd be successful. No, not necessarily true. There is a third ingredient. The first is to know and to understand. The second one is to learn it by doing it till it becomes yours. The third one is to organize yourself to get it done. You're an independent contractor. I don't care what your status with your broker is. Let's understand that. You're an independent contractor. You're going to be your own boss the rest of your life. You're going to tell yourself the things that you've got to do every day. Understand that if you know how to list and know how to show and know how to qualify, know how to close, know how to work with buyers and work with sellers, is it not a logical thing that the more buyers and sellers you're with on any given day, the more money you're going to make? Sure. And that's the goal we're after, to make money. Oh, we render great service. We render great service because we do the things of greatness, and when we render great service, the money will flow. But that is our goal to start with, to earn enough money to get us into this profession, to maintain us in this profession. You got to be organized to get it done. And we're going to spend 2 tapes in this program just on that subject because it's so important to you. But you'll learn how the great salesmen of real estate organize themselves to get it done. The last ingredient, it's called motivation. Motivation, as I will teach you in the last 2 sessions of this course, is nothing more than a love of what you're doing. You're going to eat, sleep, drink, and breathe the subject of real estate. Because you're going to fall in love with it like I love it, like all the great salesmen of real estate love it. Hey, come on now. I don't know how you got to Lumbleau schools. I don't know how you were referred here. I don't know what your intentions were going into the field of real estate. Maybe it was just to make a little pin money on the side. But you're here. And you're in this course. And let me tell you right now, I can make you great. That's right. I can make you great. I can make you a great residential real estate salesman. I can take you through the first 2 years of your career if you're willing to give me some hard work for 2 years. And not me, I'm talking about your broker. If you're willing to work hard for 2 years, I'll give you early retirement. I'm going to show you how to build a career through your first 2 years and build a career from that point on for the rest of your life. I'm going to show you how after 2 years you can relax down to a 5-hour day and a 5 or 6 day week, a 5-day week. Take 30 days a year of vacation and make $50,000 a year. But you got to give me something. You got to give me a burning desire. You got to give me a commitment. You got to say, hey, Lumbleau, I'm with you. I'm going to make this field of real estate my profession. I'm going to devote my time. This is no ball game to me. This is no fun game. I'm in here to create a career. And if you'll listen to what I tell you to do, and it's, again, my words, understand, it's 4,000 people talking to you. If you'll listen to me, if you'll work with me, if you'll go over these tapes in my textbook, if you'll do the things in this series, you will become a $1 million salesman. You will become great. I have never met a person through the entire time that I have been with Lumbleau Real Estate Schools, and I'm talking about now some 20 years. I have never met a student that I could not make a great salesman if that student wanted to become a great salesman. It's in this course. It's here. It's now. And we're going to begin on the next tape.